6 years since their last test visit to this country, 15 years since they last won a test here, and 25 years since their last series win in India, South Africa arrive this time as World Test champions for a two-match test series against India, who are under a new captain, a new leadership, a new era. What can we expect from the Proteas this time around? We've got the pleasure of Vernon Philander reunited with ESPN Cricinfo for our coverage on Matchday. Vernon, welcome back. So good to have you with us again. Let's talk about South Africa. This is a team which has really not lost a lot since the time Shukri Conrad took over. It is only one series lost, and that was a series where they were, of course, not playing a full strength side. What can we expect from South Africa in India this time?
Yeah, first of all, hello, Hess, and the guys at ESPN. Thanks for having me again. I think the way this team has shaped up over the last sort of 24 months, they really built a strong unit in terms of unity, in terms of, backing each other. But I think if you look at the overall scheme of things, I don't think there's any sort of superstars in that team. So, it is really up to, the team to perform as a team. And I think Shukri Conrad has done a phenomenal job in getting and extracting that, from some of the senior players. I think you look at Rabada, I mean, he's an absolute world superstar, but the amount of energy, the language that they speak, is really one of, backing each other and really enjoying the time as a team. And I think if you are going to be successful in the record that they've managed to, establish over the last sort of 24 months, you really need to be enjoying each other's company. And I think a lot of compliments and hats off to, that coaching staff, for really turning that team around. I think if you look at the results, before the 24-month cycle, since Shukri Conrad has taken over, I think there was a real struggle, in terms of batting. I don't think there was enough hundreds on the board, but ever since Shukri Conrad has taken over, he's employed obviously the expertise of Ashwell Prince, which also speaks volumes. I think you look at the guy's record, and he's really managed to turn that batting mentality around. I think the hundreds tally at the moment is somewhere in the 20s over the last sort of 24 months. So yeah, really sentiment to the squad, from a management all the way down to some of the junior players and the way they've taken to international cricket.
When we look at this squad that they've assembled for this tour, it has what looks like a lot of subcontinent specialists, but 8 of them are yet to play a test in India. There are 3 others who have very limited test match experience. So how much of a challenge is that going to be?
Yeah, I think the subcontinent is always going to be a test, but I think they've had some phenomenal preparation. The 2 test matches they've just played against Pakistan. I cast my mind back to, them having to beat Bangladesh in order to qualify for the World Test Championship final. So they'd have drawn a lot of confidence, from playing the subcontinent. But also, I'm a massive believer of form and momentum. I look at, the way the spinners have performed in Pakistan recently. So they'll be heading into this particular contest with a lot of confidence. And I think that's the one thing, from previous tours, my own experience, when we toured India, we're always trying to play catch-up cricket. You lose the first test and then you obviously behind the 8 ball. But I think this time round, with the 2 test matches they've just played against Pakistan, they'd have had a lot of confidence. Obviously getting used to the conditions, understanding, what works for you as a spin bowler. I think the introduction of Senaran with the Sami into the fold for South Africa. What a performance, his first time out in the subcontinent. So I think they've got a lot of confidence to take into this tour. Unlike previous tours where India's had a lot of experience, in terms of, caps under the belt. So this time around, it's a young Indian team. So therein lies an opportunity as well. But I do feel just the way this team has gone away and prepared in Pakistan, I do feel they've got a massive chance of perhaps, registering at first victory in India.
Yeah, and in particular, South Africa's spin stocks are soaring after that Pakistan series, and that is always an important part of the conversation for a series being played in this part of the world. You look at Senaran Muthusamy, who was player of the series, Keshav Maharaj was player of the match in the winner Rawalpindi, and Simon Harmer was among the leading wicket takers. Is this perhaps South Africa's strongest spin assembly that they've sent to India?
Absolutely. I think also for the first time around, we have delved away from, the usual. I think, when we toured Pakistan, oh, sorry, the subcontinent, we've always, delved towards seamers. I mean, primarily, that's what we use in our conditions. But I think for the first real time, we are actually playing the conditions, and I think it's probably the first time I've seen, three spinners, three frontline spinners play, in a particular series against Pakistan. So I do feel just from, viewing the coaching staff's, viewpoint. I do feel, they play conditions, rather than, their strongest possible 11, on paper. So again, I think you make mention of the fact of those three spinners. Look, I think two of those spinners are world class spinners. They experienced spinners. They've been around the globe. They've played different conditions. So and the players I'm highlighting here is case of Maharaj and Simon Harmer. I think they will be the two frontline spinners for South Africa, and I do again foresee the two of them playing a massive role, in those two fixes against India. But I think the real talking point will be, Senator Mutasamy, because he obviously, plays that all-rounder role. I mean, he gets some vital runs towards the back end. He's done it on a domestic front here back home. So he's tried and tested, and I'm pretty sure, you will again hopefully be a thorn in the side of India.
The one thing that has changed from past visits for South Africa to India, and also in comparison to their recent tour in Pakistan, is that India now are averse to having rank turners in the aftermath of losing their proud home run last year against New Zealand. So, how do you see this batch of South African spinners tackle the challenge of surfaces that might not spin outright, or at least at the start of the test match?
I certainly hope we're gonna, have those kind of surfaces. But I mean, being in the subcontinent, we all know what to expect. I also feel, I mean, you look at the caliber of spinners that, that I've just highlighted. I don't think all three of them are spinners that really need conditions to be, in their favor. I think if you look at the mentality of those spinners, their job will be, to hold the game tight, to make sure the game goes absolutely nowhere. And obviously, in that way, you create your opportunity. So, again. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I hope that we're going to see, proper cricket surfaces. But I do feel, playing the subcontinent, spin will come into play, one way or the other. Again, to answer your question, I do feel all three of them will be effective, in their own way. I look at, some of the field placings that we've just seen against Pakistan, which certainly, makes me feel that the guys are thinking outside of the box. They're creating different opportunities in terms of, forcing batters to hit different areas. So I do feel, that's going to be a big challenge. I mean, if the surfaces are that good and through, as you for one hope, and myself too. But I do feel, these three spinners, they've come a long way. They've played different conditions, and I mean, whatever conditions will be thrown in front of them, I feel they've got the ability to adapt.
All right. We can't have you here and not start talking seam. I know I've held that chat for a while, but let's talk Kagiso Rabada. He's been part of two previous test series in India, which were, of course, in very different conditions. And what that means is if you look at his numbers in India, it feels like an aberration to the rest of his career. How much of good news will it be to his ears that there is an expectation that there may not be rank turners, there could be more assistance for his bowling?
Yeah, I think you talk about Kagiso Rabada, and we talk 6 years back. I mean, where does it take Kagiso? It takes him to his early 20s. He was a youngster back then. And you do learn a lot. I think I watched him, operate in, during the Pakistan series, and you almost see a completely different Kagiso Rabada. I think, the control that he's brought, understanding that he might not be able to bowl 16 to 20 overs in a day, but he's going to be bowling 12 overs in a day, and those 12 overs need to be really impactful. Your role in the subcontinent as a seamer obviously changes. You're there to perhaps play more the supporting role and afford the spinners to strike. But I still feel, Kagiso Rabada is a world-class bowler. You put him on any surface, you will have an impact, obviously, on matters on the day. So, again, I mean, hopefully, like I said, the surfaces will be as as through as what you are alluding to, and I'm pretty sure it will put a smile on his face to, to know that this time around there might be a bit of assistance for the seamers. But I think the role doesn't change, and he's a wonderful leader. I think you look at his record; it's just phenomenal. Yes, the subcontinent might be a little issue, but seamers in general in the subcontinent don't bowl that many overs, so I wouldn't read too much into that record.
Right. Also, give us your thoughts on the rest of the seam bowlers. There are three all-round options in the squad in Janssen and Mulder and Bosch. How do you expect them to go? Which of them is likelier to feature?
Yeah, I think if I look at my final 11, I think it will definitely feature Marco Jansen. I think he's a wonderful complement to Kagiso Rabada. He also brings something completely different. He's tall, he gets extra bit of bounce, he gets to swing that new ball. So, yeah, that's perhaps an element that South Africa will be looking at. If surfaces are really, that good and that through like you highlighting here, I think we might see a Corbin Boss, featuring in the Test series. I think he's been bowling with some good pace. Just watched him, obviously being part of that South African team against Pakistan in the ODI. So he's had wonderful control. Yeah, I feel he's going to be of paramount importance because he's the one bowler that do bring those stumps into play with the ball angling back at the right-handers and playing in the subcontinent. We know how important it is, to bring those stumps into play. So those will probably be my lineup. It will be Boss, Janssen, and then of course Mulder. He's going to probably do a holding job for you. You know what you're going to get from him: 10 to 12 overs a day. Really trying to keep it tight, and pick up 1 or 2 wickets along the way. But I think South Africa will be looking at a Keshav Maharaj, a Tinnerun Mutasamy, and perhaps a Simon Harmer. To fulfill their bowling lineup.
All right. I'll ask you to hold that thought before you complete the ideal 11 for us. Let's talk about the batting group on the whole, because of course they've had a great year. There was the World Test Championship victory, as you mentioned earlier. There have been a ton of centuries for South African batters in the last year and a half in Test cricket, but very little Test experience in the batting group in India. How do you expect the batters to fare? Who do you hold the key for South Africa with the bat?
Yeah, I think you talk about a little experience, but I think there's a lot of experience in terms of playing in India itself. I think a lot of these guys are playing IPL cricket, so they know the counterparts. They know, who India is going to be obviously fielding in their 11. So it's not like they're shy of not, of not knowing who they're playing against. So I think that plays a massive part. I think, just having the comfortability. I think a lot of these players play with, some of these big stars, that you've just highlighted. So there will be that confidence of, I know what you're about. I know, yeah, the secrets, to your bowling because we've shared the dressing room together, the faced in the net. So I think just from that, there will be a lot of confidence heading into the Test series from a South African perspective. I think you alluding to names like Markram, Stubbs, the Zorzi. I think the Zorzi he's come in leaps and bounds. Obviously being in real good form. I think scoring that 100, in the last test series against Pakistan will give him, the world of confidence heading into this particular contest. But I think from a group perspective, there is so much good talk that can take place within the South African changing room. And like I said, they're understanding the opposition so well, knowing what, make the opposition players tick in terms of their bowling department. So there will be a lot of discussion taking place. But I do feel, just from experience, of having faced these guys and played alongside them, will give them a massive, massive boost in confidence.
Yeah, the two names that have been doing the rounds a lot in terms of their reputation when it comes to facing spin in particular are Tony De Zorzi and Kyle Verreynne. Do you expect them to be key components of South Africa's batting efforts through these two tests?
100%. I think when you talk about those two players in particular, I think there's two things that really stand out for me. When you play in the subcontinent, it's one, their technique. I think both of them love to score square of the wicket, and that's really an area that you have to step up. When you play in the subcontinent, especially when spin bowlers start tying you down. Where's my scoring opportunity? So those two players, yeah, they've got the game to score in those different awkward areas. To really make life difficult. For the spin bowlers. So I do again foresee the two of them playing a massive role. I also feel that this time around, Tristan Stubbs will come to the party because obviously he's familiar to the Indian conditions, but also to the bowlers that will be up against.
All right, Vernon, what to you is South Africa's ideal 11 for Kolkata, where I'll tell you that there's been no grass on the pitch. We're expecting reverse swing to play a role. There are cooler temperatures, especially at the start and end of the day, but the pitch might become slower later.
Yeah, look, I think Rickleton picks himself. Markram Rickleton, the Zorzi at 3. I'd love to see let me just go into my lineup. Yeah, I'd love to see Tristan Stubbs at four. At five, I will have, and this is where I come in. I will have Mulder batting at five for me. Six will be Kyle Verreynne. Seven will be Marco Jansen. Eight will be Kesef Maharaj. Nine will be Simon Harmer. 10 will be, I think we've seen a newly energized Kagiso Rabada. And then, no, sorry, there's another all-rounder after Mark Jansen. It will be Senna and Mutasami. And then everyone just slides down one. So that will be my final 11.
All right, that's a lot of batting depth. That's a lot of bowlers. That's a lot of seamers. It feels like Vernon Philander is putting out a side that you would have dreamt of playing all the time. All right, Vernon, we'll see how that fares, and we'll see how South Africa fares. There's genuinely so much excitement ahead of this series. World champions are coming to India. Let's see what is in store. Vernon Philander, thank you so much for your time. Vernon will be part of the conversation. He will be joining our ESPN Cricinfo Matchday coverage every day during this test series, so be sure to catch him there.